Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Basketball Body and Mind. Today we have Hugo Salazar, the strength and conditioning coach for Baskonia, one of the Spain's top basketball team. Hugo has been with Baskonia for several seasons already as a head strength and conditioning coach, and before that he was involved with the second team of Baskonia. Right now he's helping those highest players playing in Euroleague, in highest league in Europe, if somebody doesn't know, to be in peak performance and also reduces injury risks. Not only he does that with picking the right exercises, but also managing the load day by day, week by week, and month by month. He does that with writing scientific papers that myself and other coaches working in the field are studying and learning from Hugo and his findings. If you are interested in understanding what it takes to prepare athletes, this is for you. Hugo, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Stan. With such a overwhelming presentation, I'm more than honored to be here and speak with you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This time we're not in the bar as we talked previously. It's a little bit different chat, but I think we'll have still the same interesting conversation, but with your unique of experience, meaning that you have worked in Baskonia for many seasons, and you are writing also scientific papers. What would you say is the most important factor in keeping basketball player performing at the best level that they can be? And let's now talk about like the highest level where you are right now, not about the youth, but the highest level.
Good question and a complicated one at the same time. I mean, this is question we can be talking for hours, but just to highlight my ideas, I mean, I follow the basics, you know. In my approach or our approach here in Baskonia, we try to combine like tailored strength and conditioning routines, very important to build like a very good base and foundation on strength and conditioning. And apart from that, we work also very deep on skill focused drills and of course very good team practices. But from our field, what I think the most important is to create, educate, and build a strong foundation on a daily basis on practices and workouts. I mean, every day you should work on your body, you should work on your skills fundamentals. Every day should work 100% on a team-based, everything with discipline and with good regularity. I mean, maybe sounds like a topic that every coach we are telling the same, but this is most important thing, you know, to succeed and to be at top performance.
Yes, and you mentioned also educate. What do you mean by educate? Like, do you need to educate them about what?
We need to educate about the importance, for example, of the strength and conditioning field. For example, maybe we have some colleagues in our staff or even players with young players or even with good experience that they are already looked at strength practice and strength workouts like a bad idea or bad for their performance, and it's completely the opposite. Strength training is gonna improve and enhance performance, on-court physical performance and on-court performance played by basketball, but also is the best way to keep players healthy. You know, it's the best way to reduce injury risk. And this is not telling by me, this is what research is telling us. You know, good strength levels and good strength foundations is gonna prevent a lot of injuries. More than stretching, more than recovery shakes, strength training is key part of the performance process.
And you think this is not only in highest level, or is it only in highest level in your opinion? Like the strength levels that they have to be high in order to be at low like risk injury level?
No, not at all, not at all. Especially, I don't know. I'm not brave enough to say one percentage like in elite level, strength training for injury prevention is like 80% important. I cannot say that,
Yes.
but especially for young players and players from the academy, when they are developing their bodies in order to perform at the highest level on young categories, and when they are at senior level, in professional leagues, when you are developing and building your body, is key moment. Those stages are almost most important that to reach at the highest level with good strength levels. So while you are developing your levels, good technique and strength levels, maybe it's most important that in professionals.
But some people might say, if I will, or if my kid will lift weights, I will, like, he or she will stop growing. Is not the case?
Not at all. Not at all. We have, I mean, we have listened this for so many years, but now our evidence and scientific evidence say completely no. Lifting weights doesn't stand growth if, of course, it is done correctly. Of course, supervised, and of course, like every stage or age appropriate strength trainings that builds foundation strength, as I said, enhance injury prevention, and of course, improve performance. So, absolutely not.
Yes, I mean, I agree 100% with you because for me, it makes a little bit like it's a little bit funny when I understand people, but at the same time, it's funny because when basketball player is landing after, let's say, layup, the load after on that impact on the floor can be like 4 to 8 times your body weight. So if the kid weighs, let's say, 50 kilograms, the landing force could be 2 to 400 kilograms, and then somebody's afraid to take 5 kilogram dumbbell or 10 kilogram dumbbell while on the court they're experiencing like 200 kilogram forces. So it just makes me wonder, like, what do people think? What do we do there in weight room?
Absolutely, absolutely. And another key point of strength training that not many people mention, especially for young players, is the coordination. Because maybe not for air squat, which is like super basic movement, but if you are telling your players at young age to perform like lateral lunges with chop, single leg deadlift with press, like more complex movement than the basics. Also, this is coordination work. Okay, at low velocity, very static, at the same time dynamic, but you work also in coordination. Where in basketball practice or in your life in general you perform, I don't know, one single leg deadlift with press or with row, or some hip hinge with med ball chop. It's complex movement for, I don't know, under 12 years player.
Yes.
So at the same time we are working on muscles, let's call it like that, we are also trying to teach new ways of movement, which is coordination.
Yes. Yes, I mean, we will talk a little bit later also about like a youth level specifically, but coming back to the strength levels. So how to know if someone is like, this is the topic that is very often in strength and conditioning field, but how can we know, or how kid can know how strong is strong enough?
Well, this is good question. This is good question. I talk about this with our colleague Luca for so many hours back in Baskonia. Okay, there are some research which are telling us, like for example on the basic lifts, like to be safe and to be strong enough, you can lift like 2 times body weight. For example, in squat, you need to go 1 body weight in bench press. You need to be able to perform 10 good technique pull-ups. Well, this is some thresholds level of strength, which if scientific papers are telling us this, okay, maybe we need to follow. But from my experience also, you are strong enough when you are able to control and to dominate the exercise. I mean, for example, not a basic movement. We talk about, I don't know, some reverse lunge. You can go reverse lunge from moderate load to very high load, but for me key is like with somehow high load you are able to control and to dominate the exercise perfectly. Once you get to that point, maybe you need to change the exercise.
Okay, it makes sense. I mean, it's very nice that you gave some examples that, okay, maybe don't start doing 2 times body weight of squat, but in general, you have to understand that you will need to lift heavy weights in order to be strong. Just doing some Instagram exercises will not get you strong. Balancing on the stability ball, also like 10 pull-ups is something like a clear indication. So about the strength is very clear. But another topic that I think you are very, very knowledgeable, and I would like to pick your brain, is about the conditioning. You have done several studies about conditioning in basketball. And do you think, are there any areas that kind of overlooked in the training conditioning for, let's say, for youth or for professionals, but in general for basketball?
Based on my experience and of course in my experience, I like to approach conditioning from two perspectives. Okay, one is biological or physiological perspective, which is already known by every coach, but this is foundation, especially for the off season and for young teams, maybe once per week. If you have the whole week of preparation and the whole week to practice, for example, from Monday to game on Saturday, if you have whole week, for me it's very important to have like 1 sessions per week from a physiological point of view of conditioning. Like if you want to work on aerobic capacity or aerobic power or repeated sprint ability, you leave the balls to one side and you just run to focus on that biological variables that you are trying to achieve. You know, like it's basic. Leave the balls, okay, just let's do conditioning, you know, like athletes out of basketball. And on the other hand, we have like basketball based or game based conditioning. How I do that? I'm trying to integrate this on a basketball practice. Doing what? I analyze during my PhD studies what happened during the game in terms of lifetime duration and stoppages duration. So I'm trying to adapt my practices looking for what happened during the game. And based on that, I have like above average days, below average days. And I play with the work-rest ratio on the drills, density, durations, and all this, but everything is game-based.
Okay, so what is approximate, let's say, that ratio that the kid could, let's say, he goes outside, he doesn't have basketball court, or she, and they want to improve conditioning. What would be the ratio that they would need to, how many seconds to work, how many seconds to rest in basketball?
Game is telling us like the lifetime stop duration is 1 and 1.
Explain, what do you mean?
That means that I don't know if I say correct. It's not 11. It's not 1. It's 1, 1. Maybe
okay.
We need to cut this.
Yes.
Okay. So based on that, we know that lifetime average duration, that I mean game time when the ball is playing without any stop, average is 40-45 seconds. After 40-45 seconds, their average, there are always come in a stop, you know. And on the other hand, rest durations are above 35 to 40 seconds. So that's why the ratio is almost 1. So if you want to perform like work rest duration ratio out of basketball practice, you go work rest 1. So it's 40 seconds work, 35 seconds rest.
Okay. Okay, so that would be if you want to work specifically basketball conditioning. Would that be, you think, enough if somebody, let's say they're playing 5 on 5 and they get tired, they want to get better conditioning? What would you recommend them to do? Do they need to do something harder on the basketball court, or is it okay to go outside and perform like this type of work, that 40 seconds of work, 35 of seconds of rest?
I will go with a specific endurance, which is to play basketball, but trying to go to work case scenarios or time durations above average. If the research are telling us like duration is around 40 seconds, why not to prepare the drills to be without a stop for 1 minute and a half? So in that case, you work up and down above average duration and with a specific conditioning, because what I mentioned before of the ratio and the 40 seconds work, 35 seconds rest, the good point of basketball is that this is happening random. You have like 40 seconds work, 30 seconds rest, but then you go 10 seconds work, 40 seconds rest, then you go 20 seconds work, minute and a half rest, because there is timeout. These
Okay.
ratios going like random. So I will rather go with a specific conditioning into the basketball practices than generic or off-court conditioning.
Okay, so then for generic of court conditioning, if somebody would like to do, let's say, I mean, okay, in basketball you shuffle, you stop, you jump, you turn. If you can include that in your conditioning, that's great. But if we would just use for to simplify, if I understood correctly, to simplify, let's use just running and walking for rest. So it would be then making more sense if sometimes, let's say, a person would be sprinting, let's say, or running faster like 10 seconds, then resting for whatever, like 20 seconds, then he sprints maybe for 30 seconds, then rest for 10, sprint for 20, rest for 40. So changing rest and work ratio, not keeping like 1 to 1 approximately, but changing it different kinds would make more sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, um, I need to say like my principles or off court conditioning, uh, like this is has to be interval. I mean, has to be interval training, and two most important ways for me, which is aerobic power and repeated sprint ability on a multi-direction way.
Okay, okay. Are there any simple tests that some like kids could do, or or even that you would be using at the highest level, that they could test their conditioning and you would say it's good or it's not good, you need to improve?
We use here in Baskonia the yo-yo test, the yo-yo intermittent recovery test level one. We test all players once per year, maybe in academy 2 3 times per year, just in order to see their levels and in order to get like baseline that we signed one player or maybe for rehabilitation process after the injury, we need to achieve those like base level for every age.
And is there like, could you maybe tell like what would be the level you would expect for players to have at youth or at professional, doesn't matter, like that they could kind of think, okay, should I complete it all, or is it like enough to reach a certain level?
Yes, I don't remember very well at young ages, but for professional or under 18 players, I would say more than 2,200 meters, it is okay, good levels. In that
Okay.
specific test, which is the yo-yo test, which is very simple. You can download the record from YouTube or some audio, and it's super easy to test yourself.
Okay, and would it make sense? So I think I would, if everyone would, if anyone could test themselves, I think you just if just go on YouTube and test yourself, find the video with explanation or audio, and you can do by the link that is provided, like everything. And what I would like to also think, sometimes I see people doing conditioning after the training session. Does that make sense to run after the training session if you want to improve conditioning? Or would you do it at some other time, like other day, or in the evening, or in the morning?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense if you know the context. You know, if you have like good periodization strategy, and in your periodization you want to like go additional with conditioning after the practice because the next day you're gonna take it like recovery or more easy day, go ahead. You know, everything depends. I cannot say good or bad on one specific point. We need to study all the process and all the context of that session.
Okay, okay. So
I mean,
it
this is this is this is same as post game lifting. You know, it is
okay.
good. It is good or it is bad.
Yes.
Everything depends on the context. You know, in our context, in Euroleague, I will say it is good. Why? Because this is like NBA proverb or style. Keeps the high days high, low days low. You know, if you have stressed your player already with the game, why not to go a little bit additional? You know, with the good post game lift, so the next day, which is day between games, he's fully recovered and he takes like those 24 hours to work on different things, mobility, recovery, stretching, blah blah blah. So you don't push the player again. So in 48 hours, this player is fully recovered from the lifting session. You know, because if not, you have like game. Next day, good lifting. You stress again the players. Player
Yes.
is trying to recover, but you stress him a little bit more. Next day, another game, another stressor. You know, so
Yes.
depending on the context.
Okay, and I really like it that you touched this point. I was not planning to go deeper on this, but since you mentioned, let's do it because it's often that we see it on Instagram and we understand the reason behind, but then I get a question quite often from when I was working, why we don't lift on the game days, even though like we would our schedule that would not suit. Could you explain in which situation you wouldn't see a point of lifting on game days?
For example, when I work in the academy, if you have whole week of preparation and you have like 6 days in a week to be practice good, you have all the time in the world to work. Why to do on the game days? You know, if you have
Yes.
plenty of time to work on that. I mean, if you have plenty of work, if you have full week and you lift just right after the game, maybe this is because you have seen it on Instagram, as you mentioned. You know,
Yes.
but in our schedule that we play every 48 hours, maybe it does make sense. You know, but if you have
Yes.
whole week, okay, game is more than enough for under 12 kid to as a stressor. You know, let them free after the game.
Yes, yes. I mean, I totally understand you because that's the same response I give. Like, you have all week to lift. Why do you want to lift on the game day, you know? But then on those low days, is there like, if now high level at least at your population, is there anything what you do specifically for recovery? What do you emphasize? Do you do like anything fancy or you focus on the basics?
We try to focus on the basics. We try and most important thing we trying to educate the players for a good sleep, good nutrition, which are based on based of course based on experience, but based on research. Sleep, good nutrition is the best recovery strategy. But also we are trying to push player to make on that low days to go a little bit with aerobic work, go a little bit with mobility, and trying to go a little bit in a very controlled way of, in our case, upper body strength. Why upper body strength? We don't go as much strength as you generate fatigue, but working on that strength, what you provoke is like increase testosterone, increase growth hormone. Why? Because growth hormone and testosterone is facilitating or enhancing recovery processes. So that's why we go a little bit like this: aerobic capacity, mobility, and a little bit of strength, trying to increase growth hormone for these 24 hours to enhance recovery.
Okay, so sleep, nutrition, something like aerobic, meaning like maybe you, I don't know, walking or biking, something of
Yes.
this, yes? And then
Depending,
last,
depending of the player. For example, I have two players here. Like they prefer to run on treadmill on those recovery days because they don't like biking at all. You know, so it depends of the player. But those activities like walking fast, running on treadmill, or biking.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if somebody doesn't like running and you give them running, it will not be a recovery session. So keep in mind. And then lastly, you would do a little bit of strength training. As if I understood, you would not make it like you would make it heavy, but you would not make it like a straining hard sessions. You just to activate kind of that systems, right?
Exactly. Just to go with a little bit of punch nervous system, to get a little bit also some inflammation, to get the blood like go into the muscles that provokes better recovery, and that's it. I mean, at this moment, I can give you one example. We are doing one routine, which is 10 exercise, only one set for 15 to 20 reps per exercise. So
Okay.
that's the routine. Only one set of many exercise to touch every body part, and only one set. You know, to go out of the weight room with some inflammation, with the sense that you have done a good workout, but without any fatigue the next day.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. It's like it goes a little bit, let's say, out of the what people would usually do because it's more repetitions, but to promote blood flow, it's a great thing. Could we now talk a little bit about different age groups? We talked about that younger age, that let's say middle school, 12 to 15 years old. You mentioned a little bit what would you recommend them to do, like for the coordination. What else, or like what routines or what exercises would you recommend for that age group?
You mean strength wise or sports wise?
Strength wise, to they all of them want to be better basketball players. So what could they do that they're just starting the weight room, let's say weight room, uh, and they want to be better players? What should they do?
Okay. In that case, I will focus on not only the basics, but I will focus on variability, which means variability that to work on every movement pattern, to every type of contractions, to every movement plane.
So
You know?
tell example, for example, like simple like squat if you could use.
Okay, let's talk for example a squat pattern. So instead of trying to, of course, you need to master squat technique, you know, because this is fundamental, this is basic. But as knee dominant exercise, I will go with as much variability as possible. Why? Because in basketball, there is no only the free throw is the only basketball movement that you can repeat in the same way.
True,
You know,
true.
we change activity every less than 2 seconds in basketball. There is no movements the same. So in the weight room at that ages, I will try to go the same. You know, you can work on the squats, barbell squat, goblet squat. You can go a squat with a med ball diagonal chop. You can work a squat with the press. You can work a squat on the slant board. You can work barefoot. You can work squatting in bosu. You know,
Okay.
now
Yes.
there is a tendency now that these unstable surfaces are not good because you are not working properly the proprioception, blah blah blah. But we are not talking here about proprioception. We are talking about movement variability.
Yes.
And to change different contractions that you apply when you are squatting on the ground, or you are squatting in a foam pad, or you are squatting in the Bosu, and not only the same movement with different like perturbations or different forms, but also you can go split squats, you can go reverse lunges, you can go side lunges, you can go multiplanar lunges, you can go step ups, you can go I don't know, you know
Yes,
what I mean?
all the yes, all the
Different.
exercises. Yes.
You focus on, of course, knee dominant pattern, but you can go every day or even in the same sessions with two different ways to target knee dominant exercise, and that provides players with whole spectrum of movement.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think like I just want to explain this if somebody didn't understand well. So for example, you take a squat and you can do all these variations that you mentioned, and then you can take a lunge and you can have again even like direction forward, sideways, backwards, rotational, and also add maybe barbell, med ball, do it standing on the like a slant board, or like play around with different kind of variations. Then you can, would you do that for upper body also?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. You
Okay.
can go for push patterns, barbell, kettlebell, dumbbells, med ball throws. Some cable rotations, complex movement, push pull movements. I mean, variation is key, and also from my point of view, with these young categories, I don't like to focus too much on technique, and let me explain this. Of course, you need
Be- before
of
all the
course you,
hate.
yes, actually, of course you need to have a very good technique on the movement, because the injury risk is there. So we need to work on technique. Good split squat, good Bulgarian squat, of course, but don't get crazy, you know, because when you play basketball, you apply the force on so many different ways. So at the time you are in the weight room and you are going, for example, forward lunges or reverse lunges, and you are like shaking or moving when you do the exercise, or maybe your knee goes a little bit to valgus, or the foot, I don't know, you like do like ankle sprain every time you go back for a
Yes.
reverse lunge. Let it go, let it go, let the body control by himself, not to be like correct the knee, feet okay, core engage, be standing, chest out, go
Yes.
ahead, let the body work himself.
Yes, yes. So, okay, so this is pretty clear for me. How would you change then for someone who is in a high school, age 16 to 18? What should they then do if, let's say, this group was doing variability? Would you focus on strength more, or what would you do with them?
I will say maybe 50-50. Of course, I would love to develop strength with the basic exercise, with the main exercise. I will go to load them, and trying to build explosiveness and power and strength and so on. But on the other 50%, I will keep good variability. Also working on different muscle contractions. Maybe if the basic, let's say, if the basic is Bulgarian squat exercise, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's do like Bulgarian squat jumps. Let's do reverse lunges with focusing on eccentric phase. Let's go split squat jumps. You gain strength, you build strength with the basic, but on the other side, you work for variability, coordination variability, movement variability, and contraction variability.
Yes, yes.
So you can have this both phases working at the same time, and then we can start talking about periodization. You have like one session is to build the strength, maybe next day you work on variability, and you put these two goals together in a session, this is for maybe another day.
Yeah, I mean it's deep, but if you say let's go 50-50, so then if someone is doing, let's say, 4 sets, so maybe first 2 sets they go for variability, maybe let's take again that Bulgarian split squat as you said, so maybe you have like doing with a chop, or maybe you do with the, I don't know, eyes closed, or you do barefoot for first 2 sets, and then for third and fourth set you go for strength. Would that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and also from my point of view, to play basketball, you need strength, but you don't need to be power lifter. You know, so you
Okay.
need to work also
Yes.
strength levels, but also movements.
Yes, because as you said, like it's very chaotic that you don't know what's going to happen, so you can not only focus on one thing, which is like strength. You also have that freedom to move
Yeah,
inside.
absolutely.
And now, like, I don't know, let's touch this one also a little bit. When somebody comes from that youth level to professional level to the Baskonia, do they have enough of that strength in them, or you always want to see more? Because often people emphasize that people are not strong enough. However, I want to be careful with this because I have my own opinion, because I'm a strength coach, you know. But what, in your opinion, when the youth is coming, are they always lacking strength at the men's level?
Mm, I mean, maybe. I mean, of course, when they are coming to me from academy, I know the work that they have been doing because they work on the same in the same club, but young teams. So we know that player. We know the level of strength they have. Of course, we test them, but maybe there is one player who is like early mature, so he has been developing his strength and power from young, very early ages. So they reach with 18, 19, 20 years old at the first team at top level, and he doesn't need to develop more, you know. Just we want to maintain his strength levels and focus on different skills. And also for maybe people don't know, but at our level with those crazy schedule with so many games, just to maintain strength levels on the weight room, it is a win. You know, because with so many games, so many basketball practices, trips, with some periods where you cannot go to the weight room to develop. It's just play, recover. During the season, to keep same strength levels that as pre-season ones, it is a win.
Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense because, as you said, you play almost every 48 hours. So to squeeze in the training sessions, which is not basketball related, like their job is to play basketball, and they always like think about that. But just to keep that in mind, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, you know better. You know better. But look, let's move to the last part right now. I think it will be very difficult for you, but maybe it's just my assumption. And
Okay.
it is short questions.
Okay.
It's that you have to give short answers. Some questions might be a little bit longer, but you try to give like one word or yes, no. This is very, very minimalistic answers. If you want to come back to some questions, we can. If you would like to expand, but we can do it later. Right now, try to give a short answer as possible. Is that okay?
Go ahead. Better for my English.
It's all fine. Okay, look. Load monitoring for youth athletes, essential or no important?
Oh man, we start with tough one. I will say not important.
Okay. Next one, I want you to answer just not important without any other words. Let's do it this way.
Okay.
More, like joking, more emphasis on training, strength or endurance when we are talking about the in season.
Strength.
And off season?
Man, strength too.
Good. Can you improve basketball conditioning with running outside?
Mm, I will say 70% no, 30% yes.
Okay, okay.
I'm a man of numbers, you know.
All good. Improving conditioning. Would you recommend somebody wants to play better 5-on-5, like they get tired? So, would you recommend 5-on-5 full court or 3-on-3 full court?
3-on-3 full court, more
Okay.
demanding.
Yes. Okay. So, should the youth basketball players lift after the games? We already talked about this. Okay. Think about now a little bit longer, but please pay attention to this. I think is very important. Think about best shooters that you have seen in your career as a strength and conditioning coach, like over the seasons. Is shooting affected by upper body strength, meaning the stronger, the better shooter?
Not at all. Not at all. I think the body has the ability to adapt. So every shooting player, they have his own ability independently of the muscle or the structure that they have. You know, I have seen very skinny players great shooters, and I've seen strong ones also great shooters. You know, so the body is able to adapt, and every player is different, and with the years they have like so integrate the shooting technique that is dependently of the body structure.
Okay, this was the longer answer, but I really wanted you to expand because Baskonia has had like many, one of the best, like few of the best Euroleague shooters. So it's really, for me, also interesting to hear that from you. Okay, let's continue. Few more questions. Do basketball players need to do bench press with barbell?
I didn't hear you well, Stan.
Do basketball players need to do bench press with barbells?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Should 14 or 16 years old player train for size?
What do you mean train for size?
For hypertrophy.
What ages you mean?
14, 16.
14 not, 16 yes, I would say yes. Because usually at best ages or base stage to develop that strength and hypertrophy is around that age, 16, 17.
Okay. And last one, basketball specific movements performed in weight room with load. It's very important or not important?
Medium important. as, I said, as I said before, it is important to load basic movements, but in terms, and if you want to go some variability, you need those specific movements to load it a little bit.
Yes. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna put some funny examples to understand.
Give.
It is important maybe to perform like resisted cross step or resisted shuffles, but doesn't make sense to make shuffles with a 90 kilos barbell on your back. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
That's a funny example, but I think with that everybody understands.
Yes. I mean, when you put in this perspective, it really makes sense that, I mean, it always depends on the circumstances, on everything. Okay, look, I'll try to summarize to 3 key points, and you tell me if I'm missing something or I summarize it well. So if you want to add something also. But first of all, that strength is important for whichever age group we are talking, from youth to professionals. It helps to minimize the risk of injuries. So that would be one. Then second, conditioning, work on your conditioning. Do not kind of perform one type of conditioning. If you are able to do variety of ratios, like doing short sprints, longer rest, vice versa. Play around, also play around with the movements, like shuffle, backpedal, turn, jump, do whatever in order to improve, like variety, if you're not able to be on the court. And third thing, what I would think that for recovery, like mean you keep your high days high, you train hard, but also at the same time you need to train. The third thing would be you need to recover well, because do that well, sleep well, eat well, as you said, move on your days off, not to do something like too crazy, but have that recovery day, but don't just lay on the sofa. Go and do something. Are these key points, or am I missing something?
You did great, abstract. I mean, you touch every point perfectly.
Abstract, your scientific side is always around you, right?
Yes.
Okay, Hugo. Thank you very much for your time tonight. If anyone would like to contact you, what would be the best way to do that?
I mean, I'm not like very posting guy, but you can follow me and looking for me on Instagram and in Twitter account.
Perfect. We'll make sure that it's written in the show notes. And for everyone else, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode. That's the best way to support us. But for now, keep training basketball, body, and mind.